Hi
Hi.
Venkat, how are you?
Hi. Good. Good, Saurabh. Good to see you.
Good to see you too
I'm
as well.
just adjusting my phone a little bit. Hold.
Sure.
Do we already have past time or are
Yes,
we
we
good?
have already got to some 21 people now, so we are
Okay.
we are actually
Great.
in live. So
Great.
let's get started. I think now it's already 2:30. So let's get
Absolutely.
started. Hear me clearly?
Sure. So, yeah, I can hear you well. How about you? You're good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's
All right.
like all right. So let's get started. First of all, thank you for joining us on this forum of Insta Live. It's between you and me. And just for our viewers and audience, let me just introduce Mr. Venkateshwaran Srinivasan. He is the global head of financial services, which is a strategic business unit within TCS. So all of us, many on the call, I think may know him as the head of TCS Banks. So all the good and the bad things, they will but it has a very interesting pedigree from right from BITS Pilani to IIM Bangalore, and then I think he has worked on the product side. On first, he started with ICICI Bank Financial Services, then I think on Oracle for the product side, and then for the last 9 years with TCS. So in many ways, it's like the opposite of what I have done, which is even interesting. The last 26 years. So in my 21 years, I've started with IT services, which was primarily on financial services and specifically on insurance. And then I've always stayed with insurance, but I've gone with come back to the industry with ICICI and with Bajaj Allianz for the last 5 years. So thank you, Venkat. Thank you for joining, and happy to have you here. And look forward to an interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for the introduction, Saurabh. And I think we do have the common link in ICICI, and I'm sure we'll find many more connections if we spend more time together.
Yeah.
So I think first of all, again, as I said, thank you for the opportunity. It's a great platform. On a personal note, I must confess, I had no clue what Instagram is all about, but for the spelling. But I think in the last 24, 48 hours, I've graduated to from signing up to Instagram to coming on live. So I think that's the nudge that you gave me. So thanks for inviting me over.
And it's interesting, we are from IT services, but the generation that we're talking about on Insta Live is still,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So for me, social media is the maximum I can do is LinkedIn and maybe the odd look at Facebook once in a blue moon. But I think Instagram is just buzzing. I mean, I took a peek at it and I realized, oh my God, this is like a very different kind of a platform, and it's an
Right.
amazing platform. It's just
Right.
buzzing with activity. Uh,
Right.
yeah, I think on a more, I think on again, see, on a personal note, it means a lot to me because Bajaj and TCS, I think, represent, and Tata's, in fact, represent all the good there is that we can bring to society. Much, I think, both these groups pretty iconic. I mean, Bajaj, I have very fond memories. Saurabh, I should probably not reveal my age, but I can tell you in the mid 80s, all of us grew up watching the Hamara Bajaj campaign. It brings such warm memories, and I think it's something that we continue to cherish, and it's such a household name. And of course, you guys working together with Allianz on the insurance side, another global leader. So I think what you guys bring to market is really best of both worlds, a deep understanding of the Indian customer, of the India specific needs and things on the ground, and some really deep international expertise in terms of product sophistication. So I think it's a great combination, and being on this with you, I think on a more larger note in terms of what it means beyond our companies, businesses which have been built with a certain sense of purpose, with a sense of commitment to society, country, and so on. So I think really incredibly a great occasion to do this. And of course, in better times, I'm sure we can do this in a different format. But again, it's human creativity, human ingenuity. So we adjust with what we can do at any point of time. So
Right.
so good. Thank you once again for having me on board.
No, great. So I think our association beyond the brands has been on the, for all the audience also here has been on the TCS Banks implementation. So as you know, that we are on this whole digital transformation journey. And now you look at TCS Banks plus a bunch of financial solutions globally, for TCS. So this has been a quite a journey for us. We are now on the cusp of major milestones coming up for our, for our health and motor products. But I was just curious to understand, what is going on across the world on with TCS banks, or what's going on with, say, large financial services or insurance companies. Because while we like to think that we are unique in terms of taking these steps, but I'm pretty sure there are people around the world who are thinking much more. So would love to hear your perspective on that, to just to start with, and then we can delve a little deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to do that. See, I think just for the purpose of the people who have tuned into this event, all of you know TCS, so I will not introduce TCS at all. But some of you who don't know TCS banks, I should say a few words just as introduction. We are a product business fundamentally, package software and financial services, especially 100% focused on financial services across banking, securities, just capital markets, and insurance. So we address products in three spaces, and we have fairly deep core systems in these all the three areas. So in insurance, for example, we work with you guys on the policy administration platform, which is TCS Banks. We work with a number of insurers in India as well who are using our solutions, and globally, of course. So just to give a perspective, without going into much of detail, I would say it like this, right? We think about 20% of the global population somewhere has an account with some TCS bank system or the other on the banking side. And another data point is that we do about maybe 150 million general insurance policies, non-life insurance policies, the thing that we are working with you guys. And we probably have 25 million plus life insurance policy as well on our platform globally when I look at it. And if you look at the security side, what we do on the security side, our platform handles something like $10 trillion per day of trades. And if you look at our custody and asset servicing solutions, maybe another 40 trillion USD we service on our platforms. So a fairly large number of customers, marquee clients, globally totaling about 400 to 500. We are getting to the 500 mark, I would say. So that's what we do as a business unit within TCS. We are not an independent company, but pretty much a unit of TCS. That's the quick summary for those of you who don't know banks, or at least those even in Bajaj who may only know banks insurance part of it. So there is a little more to it than just the insurance side. But it's very interesting you asked the question on what people are doing, because I find a lot of commonality in terms of what people are doing, not just among our insurance customers, but even across our banking and securities customers. But there's a lot of commonality in terms, because finally all of them are trying to bring the best of technology to help their business. That's finally what it is. And technology as a whole, I think I can maybe start with that before going into insurance itself and financial services. I think technology fundamentally, if I look at my own experience and speaking from just anecdotal experience, right? I think it's undergone a huge shift in terms of the perception of technology in the business. I think that's how I like to put it, or let's say perception of what the role of a technology person is in the boardroom even, right? In an enterprise, really what role does technology play? I think we can start with that, Sourabh, if you're okay, because that will explain a lot of the changes which are happening. If you look at even the recent past, and you will surely relate to what I'm saying, maybe with your IT career as well. If I look at 10 years, 8 years back even, the whole paradigm was about, technology is just to fulfill a business requirement, right? That was the mindset of people, I would say. It's not written in black and white anywhere, but, this was the mindset, right? So business will lead and technology will just, be the way to fulfill a certain business requirement. So it was doing, I think, what I would call a fulfillment role, largely. So it was, so what is the implication of that? The implication of that is that, fundamentally technology was looked at as a tool for cost reduction, a tool for automation, efficiency. So the words you hear in technology context that you heard in general were, cost, efficiency, and, let's say automation at best, and, better process, standardization. So I think this was the whole technology world, if I can put it I'm of course oversimplifying quite a bit for the purpose of the conversation, interest of time. So the world is more complex than what we are summarizing in 2 sentences. But in a nutshell, I think you can relate to what I'm saying, that the crux of technology was all about fulfillment of business. Today, I think the big change is, I think technology is no longer seen as fulfillment, but a driver of business. It is seen as a driver of growth. So it's no longer about cost, it is about growth now. So I think technology moving from the cost side of the equation to the growth side of the equation, I think is the change in the game. If I have to put it in very simple words. So if I'm an enterprise a CEO, I look at technology no longer as a means to reduce my cost or make it more efficient, more simple, blah blah blah. But how do I change my business model? Can I get more insights from data and use that to sell better? So the whole purpose of technology helping in selling, as opposed to just fulfilling the transaction, I think is a huge change. It's not happened overnight. And I'm of course oversimplifying here quite a bit to just make the contrast, but this is not something that happened suddenly. But if you look at 5-10 years back to today, I think you will know exactly what I'm saying. There's a huge change in the way technology is perceived. So there's a lot of implications of there because of that. I think fundamentally a lot of things are coming from that. So if you look at the driver, therefore, for a business like ours, and coming back to what I'm seeing in my own business, so the drivers have changed. The drivers of why someone would want to buy software like us, like what we do. Why would someone want to change a banking system? Why would someone want to change an insurance policy administration system? The why has just fundamentally changed, and it has implications immediately, therefore, for the what and the how and everything that follows. Because the why changes, a lot of things follow from that. So I think that's the just to set a broader context to the question. And I think coming specifically, I think I want to touch upon 2-3 things. First is cloud is a huge game changer. I think everyone is looking at moving to cloud, if not to cloud, to a software as a service model. I think that's the big change. I think you guys are on a big journey on that, and I know we've had some early success, but it's a long journey. I think I look at it even in the Bajaj context.
You mentioned, sorry to interrupt. I think you mentioned software as a service. That is also very interesting these days, because do you see anywhere people are actually really taking the entire policy as a specific cost and say, I issue 1 million policies, but then can I get policy cost? Should I look at it the entire,
Absolutely.
say at zero ops, zero tech, everything hosted, in that model?
Absolutely.
Is that something that you see happening? Yeah.
Absolutely. We do see it happening, and we see it happening increasingly. We see it happening at 2 levels. Typically, it's software as a service is surely one level, where you offload your entire software operation to a provider. So it could be a private SaaS, or it could be a public cloud SaaS. Doesn't matter what it is. Just leave out the technology for a minute. That's a matter of choice and architecture. It's not a conceptually it's the same. It doesn't, because from a business benefit it will give the same business model change, if you may put it like that. So for example, just to let you know, TCS, we run a large life and pensions platform in the UK, which we call Diligenta. That's a subsidiary of TCS. So TCS Banks, in fact, services millions of policies on the platform, and that's in fact a complete platform as a service. So that really is a SaaS plus a business operations even on our platform. So we have all kinds of models. So in fact, that is exactly what SaaS or cloud fundamentally does to the business. I mean, leave out of course, it gives phenomenal flexibility in terms of what it brings elasticity really to the business, and it kind of converts. But fundamentally, what does it do? It converts pretty much all your cost or most of your cost into OPEX and does away pretty much with CAPEX, right? At a concept level, that's what appeals to the business because you are then de-risking from 2 situations. A, you invested upfront in CAPEX and you don't have the revenue growth to show for it, or you have lost a revenue opportunity because you're not capacitized to handle that revenue opportunity. So I think cloud just completely takes away both those situations and gives you that ideal middle path, which is that you grow and you pay as you go or pay as you grow. There are those catchphrases, but absolutely. So I think that's the way the world is going for sure. In fact, to let you know, today I can tell you very easily, I'll give a data point to contextualize this. If we see 10 opportunities in the market, I would say 3 or 4 or even 5 are of this variety. Yeah. So the on-premise software development that we were doing, software deployment we were doing, where we traditionally sold a license, and you as an enterprise customer, for example, Sourabh or your equivalent anywhere would take it, install it. He will figure out everything, install it, manage it, ask his IT to run that. I think that is clearly, changing in a big way, for sure. And that's the fundamental change I'm seeing. One big fundamental change I'm seeing globally. And I think you are, of course, in the context, you are not behind, but you are, I think in India, for sure, you guys are, among the Indian customers, I think you are a bit ahead of the game, I would even think.
Okay, it's good to hear, Venkat, from someone like you who's looking at globally. But let me ask you another thing, before, in the context only. Now we hear all these big words, right? AI, ML, whatever used to be like done in pockets or were the research sort of topics now have come into mainstream, and things like RPA, things like intelligence everywhere. So do you think that from a platform standpoint also you see some of these things within banks or within financial services taking up a lot of real practical use cases and at scale use cases are coming?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think there is two elements to this. I think, of course, AI. You rightly said, Saurabh, it is not something new. Uh, I think again, I should, at the risk of revealing my age, I will say I was in college in the late '80s, and I studied AI then. So you can imagine how old that topic is, and I'm like a dinosaur now. But we didn't have practical applications. AI was so theoretical then. The kind of AI we learned was all, it's still the same. It's fundamentally pattern recognition. It's fundamentally classification. So all that you know today as what is modern AI as problems. So nothing, if I read latest AI, it's no different. Google car driving concept is the same that I remember reading about, not as car driving, but as concept. But I think what has changed, of course, is the whole algorithms and the models have just proliferated, standardized, I would even say. So much so that the access to AI logic and algorithms, etc., has just exponentially changed and made it easily accessible. No longer, too much of a rocket science to do AI, right? Fundamentally, that is of course a big game changer. But I think other thing that we should keep in mind, right, on when you talk of AI and data, fundamentally it's about data. I mean, let's leave out the technology of AI per se, but it is about looking at past data and seeing if that gives us ability to predict the future in some sense. Either you take what a customer did, like what your Amazon does, to take an example. What a Netflix does. It knows what last 5 movies I watched, and it suggests the 6th movie on its own, and invariably I like it, right? Invariably it's okay. So it's got some sense out there to figure this out. So that whole concept is come of age for sure. The technology has really matured. At scale, if I look at in my own space, we are seeing a lot of applications in just simple efficiency gains in the back office itself. There is, of course, a more visible manifestation in the front end. Talking about Amazon, or we can speak about a Facebook, we can talk about any of those guys, where as a consumer, I experience that AI, right? I can experience AI because, but I think what AI does at a fundamental level, of course, to the consumer is probably let's say the more visible part of the business. And what it does there, I think, for a minute to take that, is that it kind of gives you an ability to think of every customer as unique, right? That's what the power of AI is really, when taken to an extreme in the customer front. Because end of the day, we all know about what we did in our management course. We talked about market segmentation. You said the market is divided into this to different cohorts who are reasonably homogeneous. But what AI allows you to do is to mass customize, if I can use that word. It's pretty much you are scaling a same product at the same time, making every customer feel that he is unique because his experience is tailored to his particular situation, or his past context, whatever you want to call it. I think that's the consumer end, which gets a lot of visibility and a lot of the attention globally, because then there is privacy, all kinds of things come into that place. But in the space that we occupy, which is the enterprise space, I think AI is just at the beginning. I think still there's a lot of potential to automate stuff. Just to take a simple example, Saurabh, scanning documents. How much of unstructured data we have, people who are today reading a document and transcribing that into a system, because the system downstream cannot process unstructured data, right? So all that we do is to give a 20-page document to somebody, and that guy is going to sit and so today, with all the technology in terms of optical recognition, and then in terms of learning, machine learning, AI, and all of that, you can pretty much automate this entire process with a very, very high level of accuracy, and with probably very little error. So I think that's an example. We see that happening. We see that happening in fraud space, fraud detection, because again, that's unusual pattern detection. We see that very big time in the reconciliation space, for example. You are matching two things, and earlier, no matter what we did, it was always a logic based on certain set of rules, which were very hard coded, which were hard rules. Whereas now with fuzzy logic, it can learn over time, and it gets better and better with time. So I think the multiple areas I can go on and on, but leave out the consumer side where there is a huge visible adoption of AI. Everybody can relate to that AI because that is something you all see. We see as consumers, we see it every day when an Amazon throws a book recommendation to you, you experience it. But I think it's the enterprise space where it's big time going on. I think that's a huge journey that's currently on. I think that we are
No,
just,
I think that's a very good point. I think, see, there are two sides of everything, right? The front end and the back end. And of course, the
yeah,
front end is the more visible one. But we are
yeah,
always interested in, in how to do it at scale. AI at scale has been a
exactly,
fascinating topic for us because as an
absolutely.
enterprise, we are in the business of doing everything, right? The
Uh,
recommendation, cross-sell, upsell, or a bunch of things that we are trying out, right, or with your platform. I think those are important. But then it also comes back to the back end. And unless we are able to do it at scale, it's
Correct.
just that another buzzword, So it's not just for
Absolutely.
techies, we will probably use the buzzwords, but finally it has to help the end user, right? And I
Absolutely.
think,
In fact,
yeah,
another thing I'll tell you, the less glamorous side, I will tell you what we are doing is you will hear of this more in the maybe 2021 side. And I'll try and cover that when I speak about, probably, we'll cover a little bit of what we're doing in the future. But just to give a sense to you, we think it's not just about our customers. We also want to make it better for our employees. So think of a guy in a support desk, right? So he gets, 50 tickets a day, 20 tickets a day. So all that, he spends a lot of time, classifying tickets, support request for support. Oftentimes we know that this is something that a problem or a solution or a response to this query already exists somewhere. So we are deploying. In fact, we have already deployed AI in many of our customer support instances where we are able to use that algorithm to make the life of this guy much better. So a lot of time is saved for our employee or our associate to provide resolution because he's spending his time less on mundane work and more time thinking and giving a proper response as opposed to just plowing through a database and figuring out what to tell. So I think things like this will also come. It's not just about, from my standpoint, not just for my customers. So there are three layers, I think I like to call it. It's my end customer, which is your customer, sort of like Bajaj customers. Then there is your employees who are really my customers, my direct customers. That is you as an enterprise customer. And third layer is my own employees where I see as well AI getting used. So I
right.
think all of this will all add up. So I think AI roadmap, when you speak at three levels, that's how we internally think of it.
Great. No, great. I think that's good to hear. Now let's come to another topic which has always occupied the mind of everyone, and I know TCS is in life sciences as well. COVID times, right? COVID is big. We all know, and we're all trying hard to get out of it, and get on with our life, but not get out of it, because no one knows, beyond the vaccine. So from that standpoint, have you seen like enterprise transformation happening at a very fast pace during the last 3, 4 months? Have you seen people like, really take the leap and technology coming to the center stage and then maybe, providing solutions? Because we ourselves, got into that forum. In fact, just 7 days before the actual lockdown, when the Prime Minister announced the lockdown, I remember having a conversation with my boss, the CEO of the company, and he and all other of my colleagues, we actually said, let's do a drill because we don't know what is coming, and let's do a drill by
Uh,
remote working, getting everyone together, and that proved to be a lifesaver because we were able to fine tune things and on our data center and on the bandwidth that we needed from our purposes. So what have you seen? You have a perspective of a lot more companies, India and outside, right? Have
yeah.
you seen like really acceleration in tech solutions, digital solutions, transformation projects in the last few months?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think this has while this whole thing came to us in March and hit us, it was while we were anticipating it in some sense. We must still say it still surprised us in terms of the scale and magnitude of what had to be done. First of all, within TCS we are ourselves a walking, talking showcase in some sense, right? So we are like 500,000 employees. We moved 98% of our workforce home in a matter of days, literally. So I think that was a experiment in real life, experiment at scale, not experiment, rather a live experiment, you can call it. So I think it's not just about, see, sometimes people tend to oversimplify that as if we just moved a machine home. It's not just like that, right? It's moving an operating model, an entire operating model from one way of working to a very, very different way of working. So it means tools of collaboration, tools of client engagement, internal working together. So many things have to fall in place. Then, of course, security, confidentiality, all of that. So I think a number of things had to fall in place in terms of infrastructure. It's not just like, okay, let's take laptop and go home. That's the simplified view again. There's always a simplified view and the behind the scenes view. So I think the behind the scenes view is that it is a lot more complex than that. And so I think we ourselves, in a way, feel we have earned the, on a lighter note, the right to give some advice on some of these things because we ourselves have done it at some scale. But also we see in our customers, that to your question, our customers are clearly realizing the importance of digital transformation in a big way. In fact, I was anticipating a slowdown in business. I was anticipating slowdown, thinking. If I look back, what I was thinking in March, and everybody was doing that. It's not nothing unique about me. Everybody was feeling that business will slow down. Obviously, many businesses did slow down. Not to belittle that, but if you look at the technology side of things, the business really has not slowed down when it comes to technology transformation. Because the transformation agendas, if at all, the reasons just got a lot more powerful and a lot more rational, has got a lot more impetus, I would say, has got into. We just spoke about cloud at length. So cloud is such a redeeming thing in a situation like this. Imagine your entire infrastructure is on a cloud. You have one huge less problem to worry about. Huge less problem. One big headache out of your head if in the situation like this or any future situation like this, because it's all managed centrally at scale. And it's not something that you will sit and manage in-house and figure out how to move this machine there, how to bring one server up, server down. None of this becomes your problem. So cloud, digital engagement for sure. See, every company, if I see, has done a lot of work in digital engagement in the last 5-10 years. There's hardly a company which has missed the bus totally. But having said that, there have been points of friction, right? There are points where you need that interaction. Sometimes customers even crave that interaction, but for sure, even by design, enterprises have not given 100% digital engagement even today on every front that they have. There are processes, sometimes by regulation, sometimes for reasons of control, sometimes any reason. You want to see that guy physically and have an interaction. It works both ways. Companies wanting to know who the customer is, customers wanting to engage on certain situations, maybe exceptions. I think in every small sliver of those interactions, now people are focusing on how to remove that human engagement and make it digital. It's not to say that human engagement is less important or more important, but you must have a means to fulfill that moment of truth fully digitally. You can't say, okay, these are 3 things which I cannot do digitally. I think that thinking has to go away for sure. It has to be 100% digital. We see, for example, in banking, we see a lot of even 100% digital banks coming up and being set up. And if you see the last 5 years, it's accelerating and more because these banks are created with the whole intent and purpose of saying, I will not have a physical branch at all. You can't see me, even if you want to, right? You just can't. You can only get in touch with me through a mobile app. Simple, period. So I think that's the direction in which technology is moving. So digital engagement is very, very big. Then the other thing I think is data. Talking of data, you saw now how the whole pandemic resulted in so much shift in customer preferences, overnight, if it were, right? As it were, almost overnight. People suddenly stopped eating out. Suddenly there is some other means of, ordering in, and platforms, be it, platforms in which you buy, sell things. So customer preferences are so fickle and changing. That's another, I think, aspect that comes out loudly and clearly on the power of what it means to put in data and analytics and insights and so on. So from multiple angles, I think digital transformation agendas will, if at all, only get a strong impetus. It will not slow down. But I must also say that the mechanics of execution can get slowed down a little bit, because to put such a difficult project together, I am talking going back to our own project. How much intensive time our team and my team and your team have spent together on the ground to sort out issues, to understand each other, to make sure the solution we are giving is fit for purpose and so on. Now to do that in a fully digital world, the actual plumbing to get it done without that physical contact is a challenge that I think you and I will have to deal with anyway. So that's the job of people like us to figure out. But that I think we are figuring out over time. I'm sure even we have figured out with you now already. Nothing is really, right? We are figuring out so many things with you guys and with all our customers. I must say, our customers have been more than understanding. When we took a decision to put our employee safety first, I think clearly we could not have asked for better understanding from our customers. and that is true for you as well. But I think that's the journey we are on now to figure out
Very fair point.
how
I
to
think very
deliver.
fair,
Yeah,
very
how
fair
to
point.
deliver, because these are very
People
complex
have been,
transformations. The
yeah,
benefits are very visible to see, but the plumbing required is a hard grind, and that's where a lot of
absolutely.
challenges we are going through now
Yeah.
in terms
And
of how
that's
to
where the
collaborate.
excitement is, no? That's where the
Absolutely.
excitement is also, right? Unless you have mountains to climb, how will you actually, get that excitement?
How do you get it done? Correct. The how part is where we are.
From our standpoint, also from the Bajaj standpoint, we constantly believe striving forward, during these COVID times.
I can't hear you well, Saurabh, suddenly.
The kind of, the
Oh.
kind of, frame standpoint, the kind of policy issues that we have done, the kind of digital, our digital adoption has gone, not 85%, and all the tools and digital assets that we have invested in, we saw a huge adoption.
Saurabh, I can't hear you well. I can't hear you well suddenly. I think you're also getting comments on that.
Hear me now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Good,
Okay,
good.
all right. Okay. So what I was saying is, even from a Bajaj Alliance standpoint, it has been an interesting journey for us. Still, you can hear me or okay? Or
I think there is a bit of a disturbance in the line. I don't know if your audience, if your listeners can hear me, or it's a problem on both our sides.
Okay.
You,
Let me continue if you are able to hear me. Let me
it's much
continue.
better now. It's much better now. It's better now.
Okay. So I was saying from a Bajaj Alliance standpoint, also it has been an interesting journey for us. Our adoption on the digital adoption side, we increased by many percentage points. And what we saw is our customers were able to adopt technology and the solutions that we provided beyond very readily. So earlier I used to have an adoption issue. Now I think just suddenly all the digital assets that we had created, they went beyond 80%, beyond all of a sudden. And more than that, I think what has happened is the human touch. I would say, let me just bring this out, because again, I refer to my CEO. Borrow something from him, but I've genuinely seen this and wanted to get your perspective on this. See, what I've seen is while the digital solutions are there, and they are there to simplify our lives, they are there to help us when we need automate end to end. But when you are actually sad and when you actually need some support, because as insurers, empathy is a very big thing for us, because the money doesn't at the time of crisis. Of course, it helps; it's important, but that doesn't solve our needs. But when you have actually something sad, do you cry on the shoulder of a Siri or a Google Assistant or a Cortana or any of those bots that you have? You still need that human support. So which brings me to my to a question that I've always wondered, and you're probably the right person to help me understand that. Will machines with all the AI and with all the ML AI and will machines ever replace humans? There is a lot of talk about this thing. Will we become obsolete and will
Oh no.
the robo culture be out there? So what's your view on that?
No, I think that's a good question. Of course, not that I know I don't say I know the answer, but at least my point of view is that this question has come every time there has been a big technology change. This came even when the computers came for the first time, and there were a lot of articles and stories written that this is going to replace people big time. So any technology change will, I think, bring about those dramatization, if I may call it that it will just replace everybody. I think it's a lot more difficult to do that. Even today, with all the advances in AI, it has just made certain parts of our life easier. I don't think we are nowhere near a driving car even today. After so many years of talking about it, also, right? So I think it's a if at all there is a point at which AI will really become and replace it, that point is so far away that we should not worry about it. And I think we should because today I still feel for a foreseeable future I see this more as a great aid or a tool rather than a replacement of human creativity, human ingenuity. It frees up people from doing mundane work, and just as anything else does, and a number of things does that, right? I mean, the steam engine made a lot of things not necessary. You didn't need horse cart driven wagons to transport goods. So will we say, okay, let's not have trains anymore because it takes away the work of horsemen? So I think this debate will be an eternal debate, right, Saurabh? This will continue. The debates and points of view will keep getting exchanged. But I believe technology will have its own march, if I may call it that, because the power of what it does is there for everyone to see. So everyone who practically adopts it will know that this is nothing so scary. This is something that is truly, it is truly empowering, liberating, and not something that will make humans a slave of the machine or any such dramatized version. Nobody who's used AI will ever say that. It is just people, I think, who are reading it will say these things, who are reading it theoretically. But anybody who's used AI, like you asked me some time back, right? What is the practical use case? I mean, that's the way to think about it. I always think, even in my own team, that's the only thing we think about. We don't think of AI as a concept and say, what can we do? But I think it's all about, what is the practical use case for us? I think we should just move on and not worry about that debate too much, because
on and go on this topic. I know.
Yeah, this is a very long, very big topic to discuss, but absolutely.
Yeah, of time, and given the interest of time, we can go on and on. I was saying, on this topic, which brings me to my, my last question. What is new and exciting on banks? What is new things, that are happening across the world? So if you can give us a sneak peek of, everything, all the features, all the cool things that are coming out,
in a way, correct. Yeah, I think, I spoke about some of that earlier as well. So for sure, cloud nativity is something that is very, very important for us. So that's the journey on which we are on. Can you hear me, Saurabh? I'm getting some feedback from your side. Are you able to hear me?
Sorry?
Can you hear me? You could hear me?
I'm not able to hear you.
Okay. You can't hear me now?
No, I can't hear you. I was just talking. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Maybe you can take the question, and also they're talking about, the question on the screen is also about the kind of experience that e-com kind of experience that, is basically talking about the core, right? What comes out of the core, not about the portals, right? Because that is one of the things that I'm internally also hearing from some of our stakeholders. But more importantly, what's happening, on this space, on the UI UX front, or maybe on some of the other cool things that are happening on TCS Bank. If you can just give us a perspective on that.
Great. So let me go one by one. First, I think you touched upon. I think I spoke about cloud quite a bit earlier. So cloud adoption, cloud nativity. That's a journey that will continue on the technology front. Okay. The other front on which we will come out with a more, I will say even improved strategies on the data side, where I think we want to have a very integrated data strategy for banks, and a lot of work is going on in terms of data strategy. You will hear more about that in the weeks and months to come, especially because what we are increasingly seeing is the need for real-time data for analytics, real-time data for fintechs to consume. So some of our customers also work with other partners, so we need to give data not just to our own customer but to their partners as well. So how do you do that, and how do you create data which is consumable pretty much in real time, and etc. etc. That's something that we are working on. So these are one or two. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but certainly a couple of both data and cloud on the technology side, I think will be very important initiatives for us, and you will hear more on that in future. Again, coming to the usability is an aspect on which we are working on big time, especially because what we find is that we found a lot of scope for taking advantage of some of the new technologies, new paradigms have come in the whole user engagement. Again, not just for the consumer, also for the enterprise user. How can we make his life a lot more easier? How can we give him a even more intuitive user interface? How can we reduce the time he takes to process a transaction, to process a policy, process a claim? It could be underwriting. How can we reduce that time that he takes? So efficiency driven, usability driven kind of work we are doing on the user interface side. So again, all of this will flow through future releases of the product, etc. So that's the journey that we are on the user interface. Specific functionality we continue to build, Saurabh, but I don't think that's going to be the main holy grail for us. It will keep coming. See, we are continuously giving market related, we enter new markets, we have to add new market specific features. But at the crux of it, I think we are largely, functionally we are reasonably complete. I'm not saying we're 100% there. There will always be something to do, but I wouldn't want to call out one or two specific things as the most important, because largely at that level we are there. It's more smaller things that we are yet to bring in. So I think usability, cloud, data, these are the areas where I think you will see a lot of work happening. We are also working on some other interesting ideas outside of the traditional thing. One is we are trying to also integrate and build use cases on blockchain. So you will see us on the insurance space also coming out with certain integrations, proof of concepts on blockchain adoption. The blockchain idea in insurance is interesting because it requires an ecosystem of participants. That's the definition nature of that technology. Either it can be internal blockchain, in some cases we are working on, but for example, it could be, fraudulent claims. You could probably look at a blockchain solution, industry-wide solution. So we are thinking on those lines on using blockchain solutions. We had also come with, I spoke about partnerships, and that is something all our customers are now talking to us. Many customers are saying, look, how can you make it easy for me to integrate with my fintech partners or my insurtech partners, right? So I'm sure you are working with so many other players and so many other newer technology companies. So how would I make it easy for you? So we will come out with some structured approach to that. So we will release some of that early next year or later this year, which is about what we call a bank's sandbox or a bank's marketplace. So, you can pilot and do POCs with different third parties on that platform so how do you build a business case before you really take up a project? So how can you have an environment where you can quickly, test integrations, etc. So we'll provide that kind of a sandbox where banks' APIs are available with good documentation, with good standard dictionaries and so on and so forth. So you bring your partner, integrate. So you are kind of in a very fail-fast way, able to work with, external parties. So that's something we will make it easier for you guys to work with us and so on. So a few more I can go on, but I just thought a few things I will share at a higher level.
No, very interesting. I think now, since it's been a fascinating conversation, I would have loved to, go on and on. But given the time constraint on this, but before I go, I would ask you a question, and you can choose not to answer. But being a TCS representative, I can always, ask you one basic question. I don't worry, I will ask not a difficult question. But will the TCS Mumbai Marathon this time happen virtually, or will it happen?
No comments. No comments. No comments right now. Yeah, no official comment on that. But marathon is at the end of the day a very personal thing. So I think it can be done any which way. But yeah, no, I'm not the official spokesperson of the marathon. But it's early days. We really hope something happens by then. Yeah.
No, that's fair. Again, thank you so much, for, I think it was lovely chatting with you, and I hope, that, of course, we all go through the whole COVID experience, come out of it, but then there are so many exciting things on lines, even entire organization from Bajaj Allianz insurance standpoint, we are also hoping that, the entire bank's journey goes very smoothly for us and all the features and capabilities come out. I'm sure, that journey will continue. But even outside, I think a lot of fascinating things are happening on this platform. I remember, 1 in 20 customers, what did you say? 1 in 20 or 20 customers are banking?
No. I think, yeah. I said 20% of the global population has an account on our platform somewhere.
So
Yeah.
every bank,
Yeah.
Insurance.
You may not know it, but you may have an account already. You may not know it.
Goes on to TCS banks, they'll say every 90 out of 100 transactions will go through bank because we are
Absolutely. Why not?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Saurabh. Likewise, it's a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks to all your viewers. Thank you. Bye. Take care. Bye.